As they huddled beneath blankets and hastily raised tarps, a group of Central American asylum seekers camped out by the U.S. There has been cause for growing concern in Tijuana, where officials on Tuesday worked to persuade women and children to return to shelters as they await appointments in the United States. Since Sunday, when a group of some 150 asylum seekers from the Pueblo Sin Fronteras caravan marched with their supporters up to the San Ysidro port of entry, their presence has drawn uninterrupted international attention, and prompted complaints from a group of largely Mexican asylum seekers who claim to have been waiting even longer for a chance to have their cases heard by U.S. officials. In a meeting Tuesday evening, government officials asked caravan leaders to have children sent to shelters while they wait. Caravan organizers agreed to ask the group's members, and said some already had left for shelters. Living conditions for the Central American and Mexican asylum seekers at the Chaparral border. Alejandro Tamayo, Mexican officials did not make any promises about the long-term future of the tent cities. They neither pledged to keep them open, but didn't say they'd force people out, according to multiple sources who attended the meeting. Uriel Gonzalez, director of Casa YMCA, a shelter for migrant minors, said that while camping out on the pavement, it is not the best place to be. We don't want them removed by force, that would be a disaster. He was among a number of shelter operators who participated in the discussions. More than a month after launching their arduous journey across Mexico, these remaining members of the Pueblo Sin Fronteras caravan said they were prepared to wait outside the port as long as it takes, cool temperatures, rain showers and inadequate sanitary facilities notwithstanding. Members of the group are fleeing violent and impoverished areas of Central America, and say there is no turning back. Most of them are from Honduras, and many of them are young children and nursing mothers. They want U.S. authorities to hear their petitions for asylum. Their presence has generated some resentment from other asylum seekers who say they are getting the lion's share of public support. Fearful of being overlooked, the other group, made up mostly Mexicans, has now set up its own small tent city of about 100 people right next to the one raised by caravan members. Many are fleeing the states of Michoacan and Guerrero, which have been wrecked by drug violence. Members of the largely Mexican group said they have been in Tijuana for a week and a half, and have established a waiting list that at one point grew to 480 names. There are currently 240 people on the waiting list waiting to cross, said Manuel Garcia, 28, of Michoacan, who stepped into the leadership role after the previous leader on Tuesday morning was admitted into the United States along with 19 others. All last week, people stopped by with donations asking us if the caravan was here yet, said Garcia. We'd tell them no, and tell them to give the donations to us, but they'd say it's for the caravan. By mid-afternoon on Tuesday, 28 caravan members had been admitted to the Ped West entrance of the San Ysidro port of entry, said Port Director Sidney Aki. Pueblo Sin Fronteras coordinators put the number at 25. After initially saying on Sunday that the port was at capacity and caravan members would have to wait in Mexico, the agency on Monday began opening the door to the port's Ped West entrance to small numbers at a time. The situation is very similar to what we dealt with during the Haitian crisis, said Aki, referring to the arrival of thousands of Haitians at the port over a period of several months in 2016. Customs and Border Protection worked with Mexican authorities to develop an appointment system that had Haitians waiting in Tijuana for weeks. Aki said that by the time the caravan arrived at the border on Sunday afternoon, there already had been a large influx of other asylum applicants. That has placed us in a situation where we were basically at capacity or a little above capacity. Those without legal travel documents are placed in a temporary holding area at the port during an initial screening process that includes determining their identity and conducting a medical screening. The area has a capacity for about 300 people, and applicants could expect to remain there for about 2 or 3 days, Aki said. Those who express fear of returning to their country are referred for a more thorough credible fear interview that is conducted later at detention facilities outside the port by another agency, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Aki said authorities are continuing to process caravan members, giving priority to women with children and unaccompanied minors. But Mexicans are typically processed more quickly than Central Americans, he said, given that they say they are afraid of being in Mexico. The Central Americans are not claiming fear of being in Mexico, he said. Several caravan members interviewed in recent days said that they do not feel safe in Mexico, and for that reason are trying to reach the United States. While the CPB has insisted it has been following the law, caravan supporters have been skeptical of this claim. Human rights groups such as Amnesty International, Human Rights First and the American Civil Liberties Union have been watching closely how the Central Americans are being processed. CBP must stop hiding behind unelaborated capacity constraints and move immediately to process these asylum seekers according to law, read an ACLU statement issued Monday. The processing delays are a way of skirting the law, said Laura Galt, an attorney with Human Rights First who sat on Tuesday morning with a group of a dozen caravan members posted since Sunday at the door to Ped West. They're not really complying with the intent of law, but not openly violating it. We'll find out where that line is, how long you can make people wait, as they bide their time. Caravan members have generated support from people who drop by with food, water bottles, diapers, blankets, but also coloring books, and on Tuesday a magic show, it cheers them up. Gina Garibo, an organizer with Pueblo Sin Fronteras, said of the entertainment, "We know this space isn't optimal, that these are not the best conditions." 3 volunteer doctors from Tijuana said that most of the children they had screened had ear problems. These were most likely developed in different climates during their long trip, said Dr. Antonio Valdez. "They started with a little bit of pain and it's developed into infections. Many young children in the caravan don't have shoes or socks. Some were coughing as the sun set and temperatures dropped Tuesday evening." Sandra Dibble at SudUnionTribune.com